I lost everything I owned just to make sure the HOA couldn't bulldoze me out of my own land, and yeah, I'd do it all over again. See, they gave me a 48-hour ultimatum to tear down the barn my granddad built. Old thing's been standing longer than half their historic subdivision. But the second I laid eyes on that phony inspection notice, I just knew there was something bigger here. Something they'd do anything to hide. And let me tell you, when I get my back up, you better believe I'm not going down easy. You ever get that feeling when the air just bristles like bad news is blowing your way? I hadn't even reached my gate before I saw it. A big red slip flapping on the fence in that cold Montana wind. My first thought, another ad, probably someone offering to clean up unsightly properties. Then I saw the words, emergency demolition order. 48 hours. My gut did a full somersault. This wasn't some nosy neighbor's complaint. It was official, or at least it looked official with all those fancy county stamps that didn't belong anywhere near my ranch. Now my barn's got more character than polish. Maybe a little crooked here and there, but dangerous. Not a chance. I knew right away who'd started this mess. The white HOA SUV was rolling up my driveway before I'd even finished reading. Out stepped Bethany Crowell, HOA president and queen of forced smiles, with her clipboard-toting yes man in tow. Remy, I assume you've seen the order. Your barn must come down. 48 hours. Non-negotiable. She said it like she was offering me a discount on landscaping, not demanding I erase a piece of my family's history. I looked past her out at that old barn. My grandfather built it by lantern light. My dad patched it after the big storm in '92. Every time I see it, I remember growing up here. Those planks hold my whole life together. This isn't a joke to you. My voice was steady, but inside I could feel the slow burn. Bethany didn't blink. It's a matter of community safety. Our inspector determined it's unstable a risk to property values. I side-eyed the inspector. You sign off on this. He couldn't even meet my eyes. Preliminary assessment from the road, he mumbled. I cut in that gate's been locked all week. You didn't get in. Bethany's smile tightened. Our inspector has full discretion. Your jurisdiction ends at my fence, I told her. This barn's older than your entire subdivision. Bethany just shrugged. Your structure poses a risk and the county agrees. Years spent designing floodgates, fixing spillways. I know real hazards when I see them. I know forged reports too. So why the rush? Why 48 hours? Bethany's eyes flickered just for a second. Delays increase liability, she said. Voice all business. Homeowners are concerned. Yeah, homeowners, meaning the folks who bought their beige boxes right up against my property line now, thinking their taste in siding gave them a vote in what I do on my land. If this barn's truly unsafe, bring me real proof, not staged photos and made-up reports. Her eyes went cold. Tear it down, Remy, or we'll do it for you and bill you double. That's the moment I knew this wasn't just about an old barn. It was about control, about pushing me out one fake violation at a time. Bethany turned to leave. We'll check in tomorrow. I expect progress. The SUV disappeared down the driveway. I stood there knuckles white on that crumpled notice, looking at the barn as sunlight hit the battered wood. Those old boards seemed to glow. That barn had weathered storms, droughts, everything life and nature could throw at it. And now a demolition order from a group that probably called pest control over a field mouse. By noon, they were back. Bethany, same SUV, but now she carried a thick folder. Official documentation, she chirped, all fake sympathy. Should make the next 48 hours easier. Inside dozen glossy photos, all bad angles and shadows that made the barn look like it was one sneeze from collapse. These are staged, I said. That broken plank, I fixed it last summer. Inspector stammered visual assessment from the property line. So you never went inside, I pressed. HO advised limited access due to risk. Risk you don't legally have, I shot back. Bethany didn't miss a beat. We're concerned for the community. If the barn collapses, debris could scatter. Onto my land, I said. No answer. I flipped one of the photos up to the light. This angle's from inside. Someone trespassed. Bethany's smile slipped. We hired a third-party inspector. Or you just broke in, I thought. The signatures on the paperwork didn't match. County seals. Some printed, not stamped. Everything about this screamed panic. "What's under that barn you're so desperate to get rid of?" I asked. Bethany's mask slipped for just a heartbeat. "There is nothing under the barn. It's a hazard." End of discussion. But I saw the inspector's glance, confused, worried. That's when I realized this wasn't just HOA bullying. They were hiding something, and the barn stood in their way. Next morning, I woke to a sound you never want to hear. On your land, heavy machinery, 2 bulldozers, a backhoe, a flatbed with a debris crusher, and behind it, Bethany's white SUV. She stepped out in a hard hat price tag, still stuck to the brim, grinning like she'd already won. "We're here to help you begin compliance. You're on the clock," she said. Those bulldozers idled, belching smoke. I faced her down. "You have no authority to set foot on my land. The injunction's coming." "Is it here now?" Bethany folded her arms, then stepped aside. She signaled the foreman, who looked at me, then at his machine. The bulldozer roared to life. The stakes couldn't be higher. If they started before the injunction, they'd say I consented. They'd seize the story and the land. I stood right in the bulldozer's path. I didn't shout. I didn't wave my arms. I just planted myself in the one place the operator didn't want to see a man standing. Foreman swore under his breath, but the bulldozer hesitated. Bethany snapped, "Move Remy, or be recorded as obstructing lawful HOA action." I held up the forged inspection. "Show me the county official who signed this. Bring them here now." She bluffed, but the foreman hesitated. Then my phone buzzed. "Sarah, my lawyer. Emergency injunction filed. Judge reviewing now. Stall them." I showed the message. "My lawyer's in front of a judge right now. Any action you take is criminal trespass." Bethany scoffed. "You're bluffing. Test me." Just then another buzz. "Temporary injunction granted." I showed the judge's signature to the foreman. He stepped back. "That's a restraining order. We can't touch a thing." Bethany turned a color I've only ever seen in sick cattle. "We are the governing authority." "No," I told her. "You're a homeowners association. I'm a landowner with a judge's order. You're out of time." The foreman called the shutdown. The silence that followed was louder than any machine. Bethany hissed, "You can stall for a day or two, but that barn's coming down. I'll make sure of it." "Why the rush? Bethany, what are you so afraid of under my roof?" She froze just for a second, then stormed away. That silence after they left didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the air right before a storm breaks. I called Sarah. "What's the HOA hiding?" She dug up the filings. "The inspector's real but not authorized for my district. Someone borrowed his credentials. Criminal. And the demolition order filed through the HOA's office using a leaseholder affidavit for a property that didn't have a leaseholder. My ranch. Turns out the document actually linked the demolition order to the parcel under the HOA's own headquarters. Darla at the county office pulled up the plat maps. Someone had altered them. The only reason you do that acquisition, or to bury a lease expiration. And guess what? The HOA didn't own their land. They leased it. The lease was expiring soon. If they lost the ground under their buildings, they'd lose everything. Their status, income control, all gone. So I did what any desperate man does. I sold everything I could, tractors, tools, my grandfather's old generator, scraped together every cent, called the heirs to the land under the HOA's buildings, left messages. One called me back, Emily McCabe. They'd been contacted by someone else offering way above market price. The HOA trying to buy the land out from under themselves before the lease expired. I sent her everything, plat maps, the lease forged filings, explained what the HOA was trying to cover up. She agreed to meet. That meeting, her brother Michael, me, and of course Marcus Hale, the HOA's lawyer, who barged in grinning like he owned the place. Marcus tried to outbid me, threw around threats. Emily asked to see my proof. I showed her the forgeries, the fake inspections. That did it. They agreed to sell to me if I could wire the money in 72 hours. Judge Bennett, old school, tough as nails, offered to partner with me for the last chunk I needed. "This isn't a loan. It's a partnership. You stay majority owner. Just promise me don't give them an inch." We wired the funds at 8:33 a.m. The HOA's wire came in 5 minutes too late. I owned the ground beneath their entire operation. By sunrise, I'd put up a sign big enough to wake the whole subdivision new landlord. Rent due. The next emergency board meeting was packed. I stood in front of the crowd, laid out the truth. Your headquarters, your amenities, everything you think you own, it's all sitting on my land. Effective immediately, the lease rate is $150,000 a month. Or you can sign my terms. My ranch is forever exempt from HOA authority. You fund a full barn restoration, and Bethany reads a public apology for harassment and forgery. They had no choice. The board voted only Bethany against. She was forced to stand in front of the whole town and read her apology, voice shaking, all the armor gone. And then Sheriff Morales stepped up, evidence bag in hand. The inspector had confessed Bethany had ordered him to forge everything. Emails, texts, the lot. The sheriff escorted her out as the crowd chanted, "Resign, resign." The board immediately suspended her, and everyone knew her reign was done. Next day, I was back at the county office finalizing the new lease. The board signed, heads bowed, knowing the days of the HOA acting like kings were over. My ranch, my barn would never be touched by the rules again. That evening, I sat on my fence rail watching the sun slide down behind the barn. Judge Bennett joined me, hands in his pockets, quiet pride in his eyes. "You stood your ground, Remy," he said. "Most folks wouldn't." I smiled. "Guess I'm stubborn." "No," he said. "You just know what's worth protecting." We stood there, the barn glowing gold in the fading light. Strong, straight, defiant, just like the men who built it, just like the man who refused to let it fall. They threatened me with a deadline. I answered with ownership. Sometimes that's how you win. If you've ever had to stand your ground, drop a yes in the comments. Let the world know you're not alone. And if you want more stories of justice and dignity, you know what to do. Subscribe. More reckonings coming your way.